I should have never let him go off the trail. 5 days in the Appalachians, with no food, no water, and freezing nights. But when Mason came back, he had the same voice, the same face. But something inside him was wearing my cousin like a costume. And last night, I watched him crawl into my bedroom through the window, even though all the doors were still locked from the inside. Asterisk, I remember the last normal moment before everything unraveled that it was a Wednesday. Mid-October. The sky was gray, like it always is in the mountains before a storm. Me, my cousin Mason, and 2 of our buddies, Caleb and Marcus, had driven up to a remote section of the Appalachian wilderness to unwind. No reception, no distractions, just tents, whiskey, and tall ghost stories around a fire. The usual. What none of us knew was that we had crossed into a place that didn't want us there. The locals in the last gas station back in Greystone had warned us not to stray too far from the designated trails. One old man with cloudy eyes and trembling hands had even muttered, "You hear the whistle? You don't follow it. You hear me, boys? That ain't a bird." We laughed about it later in the car, calling him Whistle Grandpa and mocking the Appalachian boogeyman. Typical horror movie behavior, right? But now, sitting here typing this with trembling hands and locks on every door in my house, I wish we'd listened. God, I wish we had listened that we were camped about 18 miles off the main road, near a stretch of forest called Black Hollow Ridge. It wasn't on Google Maps. We only found it through a scratched-up paper map Caleb's uncle had passed down from a ranger friend decades ago. No marked trails, no hikers, no signage. Just dense forest and the kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like something is waiting. The first 2 days were uneventful, just fishing, hiking, and telling scary stories. But by the 3rd night, things started feeling wrong. That it was just after midnight when Mason woke me up that I was inside my tent when I heard his whisper outside. "Bro, you awake?" I unzipped the flap, poked my head out. The fire had long died down to coals. Moonlight filtered in through the branches. Mason was standing there shirtless, barefoot, his eyes locked on the tree line. "You hear that?" I listened. Wind. Crickets. Nothing unusual. Then, whistling. Not music. Not the wind. Something intentional. Melodic. Who? Ha. 3 notes. It repeated. Far off, but loud enough to be unnatural. My stomach tightened like it knew before I did. "You hear it too?" Mason whispered. He looked confused and a little afraid. Caleb came out of his tent rubbing his eyes. Marcus soon followed. We all stood there, half asleep, listening to those 3 notes echoing from deep in the trees. Mason said, "It's been going on for half an hour." I thought I imagined it, but it's moving like it's circling us. We argued for a bit, some saying it was a bird, others saying it might be someone messing with us. Then Mason, stupid, brave Mason, grabbed a flashlight and said, "I'll check it out real quick." I grabbed his arm. "Don't. Seriously, what if it's a trap?" He shrugged me off. "It's probably some drunk redneck screwing around. I just want to shut him up." And with that, he vanished into the woods, flashlight beam bouncing between the trunks until it blinked out entirely. That was the last time I saw the Real Mason. When he didn't return in 10 minutes, we called out. 30 minutes later, we were screaming his name. 2 hours later, we split up into pairs with flashlights and flares, yelling into the night, scaring away deer and probably waking every creature within miles. But Mason was gone. Just gone. Not a single broken branch. No footprints in the moist soil. Not even an echo. All we found was his left boot, tied neatly and standing upright. As if someone had placed it there deliberately, we called search and rescue the next morning. They said weather was rolling in and to stay put. Said they'd dispatch someone. We waited. Searched more. Put flares up. No response. On the 5th day, just as the mist was starting to rise off the ground like cold breath, we heard something crunching leaves near the camp. Marcus grabbed an axe. Caleb held a hunting knife. I froze. And out of the trees walked Mason. Or at least, something wearing Mason's face. His clothes were tattered but spotless, his skin pale but unwounded, and he was smiling. That same crooked half-smile he always did when he was caught doing something stupid, but his eyes, they were dry, unblinking. And when he looked at us, it wasn't recognition in his stared, it was observation. As if he was memorizing how to behave. That we ran to him, pulled him into a hug. He didn't hug back. When I stepped back, I saw it. His nails. were too long, gray and cracked. His shadow was missing. The morning sun was behind him, but there was no shadow. That night, we tried asking him what happened. He said nothing, just sat there at the fire, watching us, until he whispered, "Don't follow the whistle. It watches." I leaned in. "What watches?" He turned to me. "Me. You. Us." At 2:40 a.m., I woke up to the sound of scratching. I looked outside my tent and found him crouched in the dirt, drawing something with his finger, circles, spirals, figures with antlers. No face that I called his name. He looked up and grinned, a wide, almost animalistic grin that Mason never made in his life. Then he said something that didn't sound like a voice. It sounded like a recording, like a mimicry. "I like this skin." The next morning, Caleb was gone. We searched. We found him hanging from a tree about 400 feet from camp. No blood, no scream. Just emptied out. His body was hollow, folded in on itself, like he'd been worn and then discarded. Marcus threw up. I nearly passed out. And when we got back to camp, Mason was sitting at the fire, with two shadows now. That night, Mason, or whatever wore him, leaned into my tent and whispered, "It wants you next." Then he started mimicking my voice. Perfectly, sentence by sentence, breath by breath. Then he crawled away into the forest on all fours, like a dog, head cocked to the side. We packed our things and ran. Didn't care about food, gear, or direction. We just ran until the woods started thinning, until we saw asphalt, until we saw headlights. The authorities said Mason was traumatized from being lost and alone. They ignored everything we said, didn't believe us, laughed even. They don't know what we saw. They didn't see the video footage I found on my phone last night at T3:14 a.m. Mason standing outside my window. But Mason was already inside, sleeping. On my couch. I checked, twice. And in the video, the thing outside turned slowly and smiled at the camera, then whistled. Huh? You can't kill what was never alive. That's what the voice in Mason's sleep kept whispering last night. Except it wasn't Mason who said it. It was the thing pretending to be him. And now it knows I'm watching. It's been 4 days since we brought Mason, whatever he is now, back from the Appalachian Ridge. I haven't slept properly since. Every time I close my eyes, I hear it. That goddamn whistled Who? .3 notes. Always the same. Always just loud enough to be heard when I'm trying to ignore it. We didn't tell his parents what really happened. How could we? Hey, your son went missing for 5 days, and the thing we brought back looks like him, talks like him, but doesn't cast a shadow and mimics voices like a broken record. Yeah, no one would believe us. We played along. Told them he was found in shock, dehydrated. The park rangers signed off on the incident as a wilderness trauma event. He's back in his bedroom now, but sometimes I catch him staring at the wall for hours, not the TV, not a phone, just the wall, unblinking. The first major incident happened on the second night he was home. His mother, Aunt Leah, was cooking dinner. She called me over because she was worried. Said Mason hadn't eaten anything since coming back. Said he just sat in the living room, smiling. I went to check. He was gone. But the sliding glass door was wide open, wind blowing the curtains into the room. The backyard was pitch black. No movement. I stepped outside slowly, flashlight in hand. No sounds. Not even crickets. Then I saw them. Footprints. Barefoot. The same size. Dozens of them. But they only came one way. Out of the woods. None going back. We found him 2 hours later. In the basement. Sitting on the washing machine. Completely dry. Still wearing the same clothes. And the worst part, he was holding Aunt Leah's voice. Not speaking. Just playing her voice through his throat. Perfectly mimicking her screams when she realized he was missing. I looked him in the eyes and asked, "Where did you go?" He blinked slowly. First time I'd seen him blink. Then said, "Somewhere where mirrors lie." The next day, I set up security cameras around the house. 0.5 total. 0.1 in the hallway, 1 in the backyard, 1 by the front door, 1 in the living room, and 1 inside Mason's bedroom. That night, I sat watching the footage. 3:13 a.m. The hallway camera picked up motion. Mason walking, backward, step by step, back arched, head upside down like it had twisted 180 degrees. Not a glitch. I rewound it 10 times. He walked backward down the hallway, bent his body into an impossible angle, and crawled under the couch like a snake. When I rushed to the living room, he wasn't there. But the camera? It showed him slowly emerging back out from under the couch, 2 seconds after I entered the room. Except I was already standing there, staring at the space where he should have been. It was as if the camera showed another time. Or another layer. I showed the footage to Marcus. He didn't laugh. It didn't say anything for a while. Then said, "Whatever came back, it's not trying to be Mason anymore." I asked him what he meant. That he looked at me, dead serious. "It's done pretending. Now, it's practicing." 3 nights ago, Aunt Leah woke up screaming. She said Mason was standing in the hallway, hovering a few inches off the floor, not floating, just suspended, his arms stretched sideways, his mouth hanging open in silence. Then he whispered, "I remember how you died," and dropped back to the ground. She called me, shaking, asked if Mason was sleepwalking. I told her to get out of the house for a few nights. She did. Now it's just me in it. Last night, it knocked on my door at 3:14 a.m., always the same time. I didn't answer, just stared through the peephole. He stood there, motionless, a smile stretched too wide, like someone had practiced it for the first time. Then, he turned to face the peephole, even though it was on the other side of the door, and whispered in my voice, "We're almost ready." This morning, the hallway camera showed something worse. Mason standing at the mirror, talking, but the reflection didn't match. His reflection blinked too slow, moved before he did, and then it looked at the camera, directly, like it knew I was. Watching. I went into his room later, when he wasn't home. Or when I thought he wasn't. The lights were dim, curtains drawn, cold. On his walls were drawings, dozens of them, all in black crayon, circles, stick figures with antlers, tall shadows with no face, and in the center, a symbol, a spiral with teeth, underneath it, written in childlike scrawl, "Don't follow the whistle." I confronted him that evening. "What are you?" I said. He looked at me, tilted his head. "You already know." Then he smiled. His teeth weren't human anymore. Too many rows. Too sharp, like he was evolving. Or regressing. He walked away slowly, leaving behind the same smell the woods had that day. Wet bark, dead leaves, and something sour, like rotting meat that had been doused in sugar. Last night was the final straw. I heard my own voice outside, calling my name. "Hey, open the door, man." "It's me." I left my charger. I froze, because I was holding my own phone. Still inside. Alone. I checked the backyard camera, and saw myself standing outside. But he didn't move like me. He was twitching, eyes too wide, smile shaking. He walked closer to the camera, and whispered, "Almost ready. I've started locking every door, every window, salt at the frames, mirrors covered, but it doesn't matter anymore, because just now, Mason stood in the hallway, facing the wrong way, but his shadow was walking toward me, separate from him. I don't think this is about Mason anymore. I think they need faces to wear, and Mason was the first, but not the last, because I just got a message on my phone, from my own number, an image. Of me sleeping, taken from the ceiling. First it wore his face, then it mimicked his voice. Now it's inside my house, and I think it just whispered my name from inside the walls. I haven't slept in 2 days. Not properly, at least. Every time I doze off, even for a second, I wake up to the sound of my name being whispered from somewhere close. Too close. Right behind my ear. Eli, that's my name. The thing pretending to be Mason, my cousin, knows it. And now it doesn't just whisper it from the hallway or the woods. It whispers it from inside my head. 4 days since I saw the video. The one from my security camera. The video where I was outside the house, knocking on the door, but it wasn't me. It looked like me. It sounded like me, but the face twitched wrong. The voice echoed like it was being played off tape, like something trying to sound human, trying to act natural. It's evolving, learning, watching me. The next morning, when I checked the footage again, something new had appeared on the screen. In the corner of the frame, barely visible, was a figure, tall, thin, wearing something like a hood made of deer hide. Its face was just bone, long, skull-like, with black pits where eyes should have been. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching, and Mason, if I can still call him that, was facing it in the yard. They didn't speak, but at one point, Mason bowed, like a servant kneeling before its god. I've started hearing scratching in the walls. Not mice, not pipes, something else, something that seems to know exactly when I'm alone, when I'm vulnerable, When the lights are out and the silence becomes so thick you feel like you're suffocating in IT taps in sequences. 3 short taps, then silence, then 3 longer ones, like a code. And last night, the scratching formed words Ioni letter at a time, scraped into the drywall. That I drove to Marcus's place. He didn't answer his phone. When I got there, his front door was opened. No signs of forced entry. No blood. Just a weird humming coming from his basement. I called out. No answer. I should have left. But I didn't. I descended the basement stairs. Each creak felt like stepping into a tomb. That's when I saw in the far corner. A second Marcus, face down. Naked, covered in spirals drawn in black ink. And standing over him was Marcus, dressed, silent. He turned around and smiled. I stumbled backward, tripping on a pile of torn clothing. It was identical to what the dressed Marcus was wearing. Even had the same rip on the left sleeve from a biking accident. Last month. 2 Marcuse's. 1 real. One warned. I didn't wait to find out which one was which. I slammed the door behind me. I swear to God, I heard both of them say, in perfect sync, "We remember your bones." I burned my mattress when I got home. There was something under it. Something I didn't place there. A mirrored, old, cracked one etched into the back. A spiral made of teeth. That symbol again. I see it everywhere now. Fogged up mirrors. In condensation on my windows. Even in the coffee rings on my table. It's like it's branding me, marking me. I'm part of this now, whether I want to be or not. Last night, the mirror in the hallway refused to reflect me. I stood in front of it.my, hands raised. Nothing, just the room. Me. Then I blinked, and for a split second, my reflection was there. Smiling, bleeding, pointing, and behind it, I saw Mason, standing just inches from me. But when I turned around, I was alone. I finally confronted him. The thing wearing Mason. I walked into his room. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, his hands folded neatly in his lap, eyes wide opened. Blinking. I asked, "What are you?" He smiled and said, "A rehearsal." I stepped closer. "Where's my cousin?" He raised a finger to his lips. "Shoo. He's still watching." "Who?" He leaned in, his breath like dead leaves and rot. "The one in the hills. The thing that whistles. The hollow man. He wears the old faces. And when he's ready, where's yours?" That night, I stayed up, waiting. 3:13 a.m. The door to Mason's room creaked open by itself. He stepped out. But his head was on backwards, literally turned. His feet faced one way, his head another, still smiling, still walking. I followed. He led me down into the basement, into the dark. No lights worked. But I kept going, because I heard my cousin's real voice calling out, "Eli, help me," whimpering. Weak. I turned the last corner and saw a mirror, old, cracked, covered in handprints, and Mason's real face, trapped inside it, screaming, pounding on the glass from the other side, while the thing wearing him stood behind me, whistling. "We? Who?" Ha. I smashed the mirror, glass, and blood everywhere. But it didn't free him. It just opened something bigger. Behind the shattered glass was no wall. There was a tunnel. Of roots, bones, and mirrors, all down the sides, each showing a version of me. Some laughing, some crying, some dead. I ran. I haven't gone back in that basement since, but I can hear it now, calling, "Come see what you look like when we're finished with you." I don't know how much time I have left. The spirals are forming under my skin now, black veins, stretching, moving. Sometimes I dream I'm walking on all fours, naked, crawling through the Appalachian woods. And when I wake up, there's dirt under my fingernails. Whatever came back isn't just Mason. It's a seed. A template. And it's replicating, preparing. One by one. It's learning us, our voices, our movements, our memories. And when it's done, no one will know who's real, not even us. They thought it was just Mason who changed. But Mason was only the first one at war. Now it wears others. Friends, strangers, me. And when I finally followed the whistle back into the woods, what I found was a doorway no human was ever meant to enter. And what's worse, it knew I was coming. It planned it. I don't remember falling asleep, but I remember the dream. I was in the forest again. Black Hollow Ridge, the same clearing where Mason vanished. The trees were all bent backward like they were recoiling from something in the center of the woods. A spiral, the perfect one. Carved deep into the earth. 20 maybe 30 feet wide. And in the middle of it, a hole, bottomless, breathing, something, was crawling out. Not fast, not urgent, just inevitable. It didn't need to rush, because we'd all end up down there eventually. When I woke up, there was dirt in my mouth and bark under my fingernails. I wasn't in my bed. I was lying in the woods, back at Black Hollow Ridge. I don't know how I got there, whether I walked, or was taken, or summoned, but I recognized the exact tree stump where Mason had left his boot, and in the center of the clearing was a small wooden cabin, old, rotting. Wasn't there before. I stepped closer. The front door was already open. Inside, dozens of mirrors, wall to wall, floor to ceiling, each one showing me, but twisted, altered. In one, I had no eyes. In another, my mouth opened vertically. Some mirrors were alive, their surfaces writhing like liquid, faces pressing against the glass from the other side, screaming. Silently, in the center of the cabin was the real Mason, tied to a wooden chair, naked, starving, eyes bloodshot. Eli, he croaked, "You have to kill me before it finishes." I fell to my knees. He looked at me with tears. That thing, it copied me, day by day, thought by thought. Now it's trying to become you, too. It only needs one more thing. I asked him what that was. Mason just whispered, "Your name." Suddenly the cabin groaned, like it was breathing. The mirrors all shattered at once, and from the shadows behind Mason's chair, it stepped out. The hollow man wasn't wearing Mason's skin this time. No, this time it had stitched together pieces from all of us. Marcus's eyes, Caleb's jaw, Aunt Leah's hair, my smile, and it was still wet, fresh, seeping with rot and steam. It stared at me with 100 eyes, all blinking out of sync. Then it spoke, but not with words, with memories. Memories. The first time I held my cousin's hand when we were 5. The time we built a treehouse and he fell, broke his leg, and didn't see our why father's funeral. The song they played, my mother's final voicemail before her accident. All of it, spoken aloud, echoing from the hollow man's stitched-together mouth like a skipping vinyl record. It didn't talk to me. It unmade me to be. Why showing it had already taken everything I thought made me human. I raised the hunting knife I brought, the same one we'd carried on our first trip. I said his name, Mason. He looked up, weak, but aware. I asked, "Are you still in there?" He nodded. "Kill it. Kill me. It doesn't matter anymore. It's already inside you." But before I could move, the hollow man whistled. Hoo-ha. And suddenly, I remembered walking into the woods 5 days ago. I remembered hearing the whistle. Not Mason. It was me who had followed the sound. It was me who had vanished, and Mason never came back. I did. But I wasn't me. The memory slammed into my chest like a freight train. I saw myself wandering toward the spiral, falling into it, screaming, being peeled apart, my skin filed into folders, my voice bottled, my memories uploaded into something hungry. And then I was reborn, smiling, walking out of the woods like nothing happened, wearing myself. I dropped the knife, staggered backward. The hollow man grinned, because now I remembered, and now it had all of me. Mason began to scream, his body convulsing, the chair shaking beneath him. The spiral on the floor below him began to glow, red, then violet, then black. Smoke poured from his eyes, his mouth, his ears. His skin cracked open and spilled whistling air. He was the doorway, and I had been the key all along. By remembering, I had completed the ritual. The hollow man stepped into the spiral, and from it, hundreds of other hollow men began crawling out, each one wearing someone I recognized. Some were strangers, some wore me. All of them whistling. Overlapping, louder, relentless. I screamed, but the sound was sucked inward into the spiral. The cabin split open at the seams. The sky above twisted into a spiral of bone and flame. And then, nothing. I woke up in my bed, back home, phone buzzing. On the table, sunlight, birds, normal. Except, when I looked in the mirror, my reflection blinked before I did, and smiled after I stopped it. On the window, drawn in condensation, were 3 words, "Don't remember yet." I got a voicemail from an unknown number this morning, just breathing. Then a whisper, "We like this skin, but we still need yours." I think the hollow man is still wearing me. Or I'm wearing him. Or maybe there's no difference anymore. Maybe we're all just waiting to be hollowed. And the next time you hear a whistle in the woods, Don't follow it, don't look for who's calling your name, because it already knows it, and it wants to see how you'll fit. Asterisk, not every mirror shows the truth. Some show who you were, some show what you fear, and some show what's waiting to wear you. 1. The spiral never forgavisi left the cabin in the woods, but the woods followed me home. Every night, I sweep my room for signs, mirrors, spirals, dirt under the doorframe, skin that doesn't feel like mine. I know what you're thinking. You made it out alive. But the thing is, no one leaves. Black Hollow Ridge, not whole, not truly, not ever. Mason is gone. That much I accept. Or rather, what was left of him was eaten, eroded, whispered away into the spiral. That he wasn't screaming when it happened, he was laughing, like a man finally stepping off a burning ship into cold water, because he knew. I brought it back. Point 2. The infection of MEMORY. Do you want to know how the hollow man spreads? It's not through bites, not through touch, not even through possession. It spreads through remembrance. That's why everyone who hears the whistle ends up drawn back to the woods, not by force, but by familiarity. That's why when I dream now, I'm always walking in reverse, naked, crawling on all fours, heading towards something I can't see. But remember, because the moment I remembered what happened in those missing 5 days, it completed the ritual. The whistle is just the lure. The spiral is the trap. And memory is the door. And now the door's wide open. Point 3. Faces on string. C went to the mirror again this morning, the one I keep covered with black cloth. This time, I pulled the cloth off slow. In the reflection, I saw myself, but not the me I see every day. This version was taller, paler, unblinking. Its hands twitched like puppet strings, and behind its eyes, there were other faces staring out. Not mine, but faces I used to know. Marcus, Caleb, my mother, my father, my cousin, all floating just beneath the surface like corpses in a frozen lake. Then the reflection whispered, "We needed your memories to finish our skin. Now we need your guilt to make it breathe." And that's when I understood the final rule. You're not supposed to follow the whistle, but you're especially not supposed to survive it, because if you do, you bring it back with you. Point 4. The return to the Ridge. I had to go back. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't pack gear, just took a flashlight, a crowbar, and a cracked hand mirror from Mason's drawer. Something about it called to me. When I crossed the tree line into Black Hollow Ridge, the trees leaned toward me like old friends. The sky turned a sickly green. The wind didn't blow around me. It blew through me. And the whistle started up again, not from one direction, but from all of them. We. Hoo-ha. The sound of a throat being stretched to breaking. The cabin was waiting, but now it had grown. Its walls pulsed like lungs. Its wood creaked like bones flexing. Inside, the mirrors were gone. Only a single spiral door, hovering in midair, and just beneath it, something tied to the floor. My body, eyes sewn shut, mouth stapled open, chest cut in a perfect spiral. It wasn't breathing. But it wasn't dead either, because I could feel it. Every cut, every tear, every hole was mine. That's when I saw Eli. Me, step out of the shadows, smiling, alive, free. "You finally made it," he said in my voice. "You brought the last piece." "What piece?" I asked. "Acceptance." 5. The spiral under the skin. The thing in my shape walked toward the spiral door. He touched the edge, and the entire world screamed. Not a sound. A memory. My childhood birthdays. My cousin's first fall. The moment I realized my father wasn't coming back from the hospital. All twisted together, turned inside out, and burned. He turned to me and said, "You're not Eli anymore. You're the vessel. We are the face the spiral wears to whisper others in." He stepped into me, not into my body, into my mind, and I felt it. The twisting, the unmaking. My name peeled off me like dead skin, and in its place, silence. Point 6. The final whistle. I woke up at home again. Or so it seemed. Only now, every clock is stuck at 3:13 a.m. My phone only plays the whistle. Everyone I talk to repeats their lines, like NPCs in a broken simulation, and every time I close my eyes, I see the spiral, getting closer, brighter, and now it whispers to me in Mason's voice, "It's your turn to wear the skin." I no longer know if I'm the original Eli. Or the echo. Or the bait. But here's what I know. If you hear a whistle in the woods, Don't follow it if your cousin comes back not quite right. Don't speak to him that if your reflection blinks first. Smash the mirror, because once it knows your name, the hollow man is already wearing your face, and you're already inside the spiral.